So welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today I'm doing my top 10 horror franchise. Now this is my list. We all have opinions, and this list goes like this every single time you ask me. Some honorable mentions will be the Sleepaway Camp. That's one honorable mention. It didn't make it on the list because there's two more I believe that I have not seen yet that will be coming soon. The next honorable mention is the whole Conjuring franchise, only because there's only like 2 movies and the third one's going to be coming out soon. So yeah, those are 2 honorable mentions: Sleepaway Camp and the Conjuring movies, only because the Conjuring there's only 2 movies at the moment. So yeah, coming in number 10, let's go and get right into this ranking top 10 horror franchises. Let me know your top 10 or top 5 in the comments below. We'll go ahead and get right into this video. Make sure you smash the like button and let's go and get right into the video. So number 10 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. Now, hear me out. I'm not the biggest fan of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. I didn't grow up with this franchise. I got into it way later, like way later. It's not, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, really, the franchise isn't my cup of tea. There's only a few movies that I enjoy, and out of those few, I think the first one, is decent. People will praise it. I think it's decent. I do regard the first one as a classic, but for me, it's just decent. Part 2, not my, I like part 2, but I can't really find myself always watching part 2. Not my cup of tea. I like Leatherface scary, and in part 2, he wasn't scary. And then, my favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies are the remake, the 2003 remake, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning. Those are really my own. I only have 2 favorites. If I had to put another favorite in it, I'll say the original. But even then, I don't find myself watching the original. That's gonna make a lot of people angry, but again, it's my opinion. And it's just the way I feel personally. It's just the Texas Chainsaw Massacre isn't really my cup of tea because they don't know how to handle the character Leatherface. And it's really disappointing to me that they don't know how to handle that character when it's really easy to do, but they just don't want to do it. I think the best Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that we ever had is the 2003 remake. That's the best horror remake. That's hands down one of the best remakes. Not only is it the best remake, it's the best Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. I remember as a kid, I saw the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time. I think it was 2008, 2009. First time I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake. And I was like, this is amazing. I didn't know they had an entire franchise until like a year or 2 later. I was like, oh, let me check these out. But yeah, number 10 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, only because I don't like every single movie. I only like a few, and there's not a lot of nostalgia there. But that 2003 remake will always be one of my favorite horror remakes, and will always be one of my favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, my opinion, of course. Number 9, I wasn't going to include this on the list, but I said, why not? It'd be a fun discussion. And that is number 9 is the Paranormal Activity franchise. Now, hear me out. Number 9 is the Paranormal Activity franchise. I think if you put this on your list, it is going to be down here somewhere. The Paranormal Activity franchise, it's a fun franchise. It's a fun modern day franchise, but it can get stale at some points. I feel like the best Paranormal Activity movies, I haven't, did my ranking yet and my reviews on these. Excuse me, I have did my reviews, I just haven't did the review on Ghost Dimensions because I'm really dreading watching that. I'll be honest, I'm really dreading watching Ghost Dimensions. I don't like Ghost Dimensions. The point is, number 9 is Paranormal Activity. The first one I regard as a classic, one of my favorite found footage movies. I've always said I'm picky about my found footage movies. The quality, the camera work, the story, all that has to be good for me to watch a found footage movie. And I regard the Paranormal Activity, the first one, the original, one of the best out of the whole franchise. One of the best. I think the Marked Ones is probably the best one in the franchise. I say that because it does a good job tying everything up. while being almost a standalone reboot, but tying everything together, and it was a very refresh of the series. Because you go to part 2, Paranormal Activity 2, it was decent, it was whatever, but it had the same thing as the first one. Part 3, it kind of started showing too much. It kind of got stale at that point, but I did like the 80s setting. Then part 4 was just boring to me. And then here comes the marked ones. I think the marked ones is the best one in the franchise. I'm not going to spoil my ranking, so that's all I'm going to say about the Paranormal Activity franchise and the marked ones. Number 8, this may be a controversial one, I don't know, because number 8 is Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street is number 8. Now listen, I understand, this whole franchise is a classic franchise. The original, I love the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I think the original Nightmare on Elm Street is one of the best slashers. Has a unique character. The killer himself has a unique weapon of choice, and Robert Englund does a phenomenal job. But again, there's only a few movies that I like. I only love the original. I only love part 3. I only love the new Nightmare, and I only love Freddy vs. Jason. I consider Freddy vs. Jason more of a Freddy movie. That's why I kind of put it in there. But yeah, number 8 is Nightmare on Elm Street. I just, I like, I do love Robert Englund's performance. I love, Nancy as a character. But, part 2, not my cup of tea. Part 4, really not my cup of tea. It was, part 4, I'd say it's decent, but, again, not my cup of tea. I like my Freddy dark, or kind of in the vein how he was in part 3 or Freddy vs. Jason. If you kind of want to go to that dark humor comedy element, choose part 3, choose Freddy vs. Jason. They went too far after part 4, and that's my opinion. Number 7 is the Saw franchise. Now, the Saw franchise isn't for everybody, but the thing I like about the Saw franchise is every single movie in the franchise is perfect. No, but for me, the drawing point for Saw is the traps and the story. I love the continuity here and there. I love the traps. I think the traps are creative. That's one of my favorite things. And I guess you could kind of, killer really. John Kramer. I think he's a really interesting person, in this horror world. And that's my opinion, because I think, John Kramer, is almost in denial of what he's really doing, and that's killing these people. He's almost playing like a god role almost, and that makes you feel some type of way about this guy. And every time you see John Kramer on screen, for me, it's always mixed feelings. Like, is this guy really bad? But at the same time, he's almost like playing God. He's picking and choosing who lives and who dies. And I like the Saw franchise. Is every single movie perfect? No, I think the first 2 is the best in the franchise, and Jigsaw was pretty good, I thought. Number 6 is the Friday the 13th franchise. Ranking coming up soon, but yeah, number 6 is the Friday the 13th franchise. Not a big, I love the character Jason, just like Freddy. I love the character Freddy, but I love the character Jason. I think he's an interesting character. There are some fumbles here and there, but the character that I don't like how, them adding new lore to him, and Jason Takes Manhattan. But point is, number 6 is Friday the 13th. Again, there's only a few that I like. I think part 3 is decent. I will put that on my list as, I really wouldn't put part 3 on my list as my favorites. I just consider it in a decent pile. The final chapter, love the final chapter. Maybe a controversial one, but I love the new beginning. I think the copycat killer aspect almost worked. Maybe controversial, I don't know. But like I said, I'm not a big fan of the Friday the 13th franchise. I only have a few favorites. But I only have a few. I know everything about the Friday the 13th franchise. You could really call me a casual Friday the 13th fan. Same thing goes for Nightmare on Elm Street. But back on Friday the 13th as number 6, like I was saying, I love the final chapter. I love the new beginning. As controversial that may be, it's my opinion. I love Jason Lives. I think that may be one of the best in the franchise besides the remake and the final chapter. Just because, you're sitting watching a marathon of all these movies and you go to the to Jason Lives, and it has this awesome soundtrack. It's just fun. It's almost meta like Scream. Jason Lives in a lot of ways was ahead of his time, and that's my opinion. I really, really love the remake. I think that's the best Friday the 13th movie. That may be controversial, but I'm not gonna spoil my ranking. But just know as of right now, my favorite Friday the 13th movie is the remake. So I just love how they put a story in there. They actually put a story in there. You know what I mean? So yeah, number 5 is the Insidious franchise. I think the best, besides the first 2 Conjuring movies, I think the Insidious franchise, specifically the first one, and specifically the first 2, some of the best supernatural modern day horror movies. I think, besides Sinister and The Conjuring and like a few others, Insidious is right up there. I think the first Insidious is a classic. It's a classic already, in my opinion. James Wan is a master at what he does. I think he's a perfect modern day horror director. Yeah. The number 5 is the Insidious franchise. I really love the Insidious franchise. I haven't seen part 3 in a while, and that is my Insidious 3 poster right there. I haven't seen part 3 in a while, but a review for part 3 is coming up, because I am currently reviewing all these movies, and a ranking is coming up very soon. But number 5 is the Insidious franchise. My favorite Insidious movie is the first one, but I'm not going to spoil my ranking. Number 4. Now, this was a hard choice, but I went ahead and put Final Destination as my number 4. I think it's just an interesting premise for Final Destination, and the original script will go much more darker. But yeah, number 4 is the Final Destination franchise. It's the franchise for everybody. No, I think the first 3 are the best in the franchise. I think what sells these movies is Tony Todd, the premise that you can't escape death. I think there's something there with that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just eerie. It's not you going up against, Ghostface or Jason, or it's death. Like, you can't escape that. I think that's like the really eeriest part about the Final Destination and that whole premise. You already know you can't talk. So that was number 4, was the Final Destination. My top 3, you already know what my top 3 is. I don't have to go into explanation here. Number 3 is the Scream franchise. Love the Scream franchise. I think, the first Scream is a classic. And it's crazy that came out so many years ago. And it, and it's not getting that classic title yet. And I think that's disappointing. I hope, obviously, I hope, the new Scream movie will be good, but I also hope the new Scream movie, brings people to these older Scream movies, because I don't think the Scream franchise, has gotten enough love. I don't think, it has or is getting enough love. Even the whole announcement of the movie, the new movie, I still don't think it's getting enough love and appreciation. Scream, the original, did something special for the whole slasher and horror genre. But I don't think it gets credit for that. Around the time Scream, before Scream came out, horror was starting to get stale. They didn't know what to do with horror. Horror was kind of on a downfall, and Scream came along and really helped everything. I love the Scream franchise. Part 3, I say it's decent, isn't my favorite, but a lot of people hate on Scream 3. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I could sit down and enjoy it, but I'd rather watch part 2 or 1 or 4. But yeah, number 3 is Scream. Number 2, you already know, is Halloween. Love the Halloween franchise. I even love some of the controversial ones. Like, I love the Rob Zombie 2007 Halloween, but I had major problems with the first half, the whole dysfunctional family. I love Halloween 6. I say that's probably one of the best in the franchise, except for the whole Thorn, everything like that. And I think one of the best, hands down, one of the best Halloween movies is Halloween 4. And I said it tons of time. I said it time and time again here on the channel. I wish Halloween 4 would get the recognition it deserves. And I wish Danielle Harris, her character and the character she played, because she was in Rob Zombie's Halloween, I wish she got the appreciation she deserves. And I hope one day, they make a proper sequel to part 4, or at least let her come back to this franchise. She loves this franchise. But yeah, number 2 is Halloween. Love this franchise. What is my, I did a Halloween ranking not too long ago, right? I did a Halloween ranking not too long ago. But I said the original was my favorite in that video. As of today, what is my favorite Halloween movie? I'm going to say Halloween 4 or Halloween 2018. Like I told you, every single time I rank, something, it's not official. Like I don't make official rankings because I can't stick to that. Like I just said, as of right now, my favorite Halloween movie is either 4 or Halloween 2018. But in that ranking, I said the original was my favorite. So it don't stick. You know what I mean? Number 1 is the Child's Play. Do I need to explain why Child's Play is number 1? Do I need to explain this? This is the reason why I'm sitting here talking about horror. This is the reason why I got Jason on my wall and Ghostface and Insidious posters and a Chucky poster and all this. Child's Play is the reason why I love horror. Child's Play is the reason, and I owe a lot of that to Don Mancini and David Kushner and even Tom Holland, the original director of the first movie. Child's Play got me into horror. It's the reason why I love horror. It's the reason why I'm sitting here talking about these horror franchises. It's the reason why I have so much horror content on the channel, because I love horror. It's one of my favorite movie genres. As much as I love cinema as a whole, horror will always be one of my favorite genres, and that's just how it is for me. Child's Play is, I think the first 2 are classics. Does the original get enough appreciation? No. But the first 2 classics, good movies. I think part 3, it's almost like a Scream situation where it's somewhat enjoyable, but the only problem with Child's Play 3 would be it just feels rushed and doesn't feel like, it really feels like Don Mancini and all the original team, which is really burnt out, and I think that's understandable. Bride of Chucky, I love Bride of Chucky. People call it a comedy. I don't consider Bride of Chucky a comedy. I consider it more of a, dark humor comedy with horror. I always compare Bride of Chucky to Nightmare on Elm Street. Like every time I think of Bride of Chucky, I always think of Nightmare on Elm Street, because I think they used that tone from Nightmare on Elm Street 3. That's my opinion. I love the whole road trip feel of Bride of Chucky. Let's not talk about Seed, please. But Curse of Chucky. Curse of Chucky is surprisingly one of those movies where it just grows and grows and grows on you. Cult, I think it's like part 3 for me is decent, but could have been better. Yeah, that was my top 10 horror franchises. Let's have a discussion in the comments below. Right now, what is your top 10 or top 5? Give me whatever in the comments below. Give me some honorable mentions. Like I said, my honorable mention was the 2 Conjuring movies, part 3 next year, and the Sleepaway Camp franchise, only because I think I got 2 more of those left, so I haven't seen those yet. So yeah. As my top 10 horror franchises. Let me know your top 10 or top 3 or whatever you want to give me in the comments below. And yeah, make sure you smash the like button. Please subscribe if you're a first time viewer. Make sure you hit the notification bell to know when I go live or even upload a brand new video. And I will see you guys in the next video.